Yes, people, I've got 25 questions from ChatGPT about life. And this is going to be an interesting episode because I had a quick scan through the questions and they're quite interesting. So let's get straight into it. Number one is, what does happiness mean to you? Happiness for me is just an emotion. It's a fleeting emotion, just like pleasure. It comes and it goes. And it's nothing to be chased after, because if you're chasing happiness, you're going to be let down. It's a never-ending pursuit, because just like any emotion, it comes and it goes, it fluctuates. So if you spend your whole life looking through the lens of chasing and pursuing happiness, you're going to be on this never-ending pursuit, because you're going to get a little bit of happiness, and then like anything in life, it's going to come and go. So if you're looking for happiness as to live a like fulfilled, peaceful life, you're looking in the wrong place. I think you need to be looking instead at purpose. What is your greater purpose? What are you here to serve? Serve others. How can you serve others? And what is it you can do to better the lives of the people around you? Because if you're chasing happiness, then yeah, it's this never-ending pursuit that's not going to make you feel how you want to feel. Number two is, how do you define success in life? Good question. I don't actually know how I define success. I know I need to be very careful of my definitions because they've been influenced by what materialism and society tells you to define success as. So it is deemed that success should be valued as material gains, bigger house, earning a lot of money, having financial freedom. That's what society pushes you towards. It's like you need to... That's how you become successful. But for me, success is more like a state of mind. It's accepting who I am and being peace and tranquil with all the ups and downs that come with life, and not attaching to any idealistic outcome and which is causing me suffering. Success for me is just making an impact on those around me, serving everyone around me, and doing the best I can to optimize my potential. Number three, what is your biggest fear and why? My biggest fear is the fear of my social anxiety. And this is because I'm very aware of how I can come outwards. My outwards perception is very confident. It comes across like I'm a confident person. And there's this massive disconnect sometimes between the way I come across and the way I feel. And I've got this fear behind me, the cracks showing and people seeing I'm anxious. So it's the fear of judgment. The fear of judgment is huge for me because I'm afraid that people will see I'm outwardly anxious. And obviously I talk about them in these podcasts and I'm very vulnerable, but when I'm in a conversation and I'm trying to act confident and there's a disconnect between how I'm outwardly achieving that and my inward state of mind, it causes me a lot of fear. And that's probably because I'm trying to perform. I'm trying to be this confident version of Alex instead of being vulnerable and just being me. But yeah, my biggest fear currently is the fear of people realizing I'm anxious and I'm not the persona I portray. Which, when I say it out loud, sounds stupid, but that is like maybe my biggest fear. Another one is the fear of me not succeeding in business and having to work a 9 till 5 for the rest of my life. I think it's very easy for me to doubt myself from my past record of like not being consistent with things and not staying true to my word. And because I've often like procrastinated on things and I've lied to myself when I've said I'm going to do things, I've not got a solid foundation of self-belief that I'm going to go out and actually achieve this business model I want to do. So yeah, there's also a lot of fear attached to I'm going to be working in Marks and Spencer's for the rest of my life, or like a retail job, a 9 till 5. So yeah, that's another big fear of mine. Number four, what motivates you to get out of bed every morning? The fear of running away from who I am. So there's this dichotomy that I'm struggling with at the moment is like, is the reason I want to improve myself because I'm so focused on improving, or is it because I'm running away from the person I am? And most of the thoughts that come through our mind as soon as I wake up is, you need to get out of bed because you don't want to be depressed. You don't want to be anxious. So that signals to me that I'm actually using fear as a motivator. I'm using the fear of who I am as a motivator to get out and do things. And whether this is healthy or not, I'm not entirely sure, because it's definitely moving me in the right direction. But sometimes like trying to do things in the pursuit of running away from your insecurities and anxieties actually reinforces this disconnect between who you are and who you're portraying again. So I'm not sure if I'm doing that in a healthy manner, but that is what motivates me to get out of bed at the moment. Is I don't want to fall back into the insecure, socially anxious Alex that was like me 3 years ago. Number 5 is, how do you handle failure and setbacks? I handle failure and setbacks by using the dichotomy of control from Stoicism. I realize that when I take actions and when I go out and do things, that I can't control what happens. And if I fail, that is just another lesson to be learned. I can control my interpretation of that failure and turn it into a positive. I can turn it into a lesson to be learned. And I failed in so many things, from diet, fitness, starting an Amazon FBA business, dropping out of university. But I don't see any of these as negative things. I see them all as lessons that have got me to where I am today. And I think that's the only way you can see failure as. And like, self-improvement and improving yourself is never a linear line. It's always ups and downs. I always say to people that go to the gym, it's going to take a while to get into the groove and build up the consistency. And the weeks where you don't go, the weeks you learn the most about yourself, because you start to learn what you don't want to do. You start to learn how you feel when you don't go out and do the things you want to actually achieve. And that in itself is a lesson. It's kind of life teaching you what not to do. So I always see failures and setbacks as just an indication of not to do this, what I can learn from, and where to go next. And I think failures are your best asset. If you can learn to flip failure on its head and use it in a positive way, it's going to reinforce a very healthy state of mind. And you're not going to be risk averse, because you're going to know that anything that happens, you can tackle head on and you can go towards and you can like progress through it, because you're going to learn from all them lessons. So yeah, failure is never anything that holds me back anymore. It's something I use to advance my life and to learn from life. Number 6 is, what do you consider the most important values in your life? Number 1 is curiosity. I think having a natural curiosity allows you to develop an interest in character, and it allows you to really dive into things and build relationships with people. At the base, fundamental of everything is being curious. And if you can continue to be curious and you can continue to look at things in a manner as a beginner's mindset, then you're going to learn more. You're going to build deeper relationships with people. And curiosity is the most endearing, productive value, because, as I said, it's going to allow you to do everything. And I do this when I start learning a new subject, when I'm talking to someone. I always come in with a curious mind. I want to learn as much as I can and ask as many questions, because from that, I'm going to develop an understanding of who this person is, or what's happening in this scenario, and I'm going to allow to develop my character through that. So yeah, curiosity is a huge part of my life. Another value is humor. I just love seeing the funny side of life. I think it's very easy to take life serious. And even my social anxiety, for example, like, it's often very easy to get stuck in this negative state of mind where I'm like, why do I have social anxiety? Why do I suffer when I speak to women? But sometimes I just laugh at it and I'm just like, that's funny. That's just your brain operating in a weird way. And I try and find a humorous way of like flipping that on its head, and always like try and have a laugh with people and make them feel good about themselves, because at the end of the day, everyone just wants to have fun. Everyone just wants to enjoy themselves on this time, on their little time on this earth, on this spinning rock that we're on. And if you can always find a funny way to look at things, or you can always find the funny out of things, it takes the stress off them. It takes the importance off life, and it kind of just makes it all flow and like feel a bit easier. So yeah, humor and curiosity. Number 7 is, are you living the life you always envisioned for yourself? No, not at all. 3 years ago, I writ out a 10-year plan, which was an ideal life, an ideal day in the life of me in 10 years. And ever since then, I've gone on this massive spiritual journey of self-improvement, and I'm slowly working towards it. But there is a massive disconnect between that person there and the person I am right now. But I understand that it all takes time and it's a process, and the life I envision myself living is getting built day by day. I'm slowly piecing it together and manifesting it through my thoughts and my actions. So it's just a slow process. But for people who maybe haven't even envisioned a life for themselves, you need to do this right now. It's so important to give yourself like a compass and a direction to move towards, because if you don't, it kind of sets you back, as like no wind is favorable. If man not knows what port he sails from, no wind is favourable. So you need to know where you're going. You need to have a rough idea of this is where I want to be, because it makes choices and sacrifices a lot easier. But no, I'm nowhere near living the life I want to. I'm still working in retail, still working like the 9 till 5. I'm not in like the shape I want to be. I've not got the mindset developed yet that I really want, but it's all a process, man. I'm looking forward to maybe getting there one day, maybe not. Maybe it's just like this never-ending pursuit of always envisioning more and more, and you're constantly trying to attain things. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how my life is in like 5 to 10 years. That's what I'm going to measure my success on, not what I'm doing right now. Right now is for me to improve. My 20s are for me to gather information, to apply and then share, and to build this lifestyle out that I want. And in 10 years' time, I'll look at that and see if I really did reach the life I envisioned to, which I'm guaranteed I will. Number 8 is, how do you find meaning and purpose in your life? So this is one thing I've lacked massively, and the gym filled a massive hole for this, because I never had like a greater purpose other than me. So for the last 2 years, it's been all working out, gym, learning about the body, how to optimize muscle growth. That's been my meaning and purpose in life, because there was nothing bigger than me. It was just, I had to work for me. That was all I had. So it's been the gym. But ever since I've come back from traveling and I sat in the meditation retreat, I really understood the true power in vulnerability and sharing your own story and being honest, because there's so many people out there that are so wrapped up in their egos and so wrapped up in their problems that they can't share their insecurities and their anxieties. And all this does is it builds and reinforces in their brain as something they should be ashamed of. And then they hide it and suppress it. And then this comes out in their behaviors and actions and makes them depressed, anxious, and makes them not nice people to be around. And through my realization of this, I've started realizing that my purpose is to share my story, is to make social anxiety something that people can talk about, to give people information that helps them overcome the symptoms of social anxiety and to start building their life towards a place where they want to go. And that is how I find meaning in life, and how you should find meaning in life is turning your biggest insecurities into your biggest assets, your fuels. And that's truly where your meaning and purpose lies. That's a big thing for me. I used to think it was some esoteric attachment to this like perfect goal or living this perfect lifestyle, or something that would be desired and something that would be respected by my peers. But no, I really think meaning and purpose in your life comes from within. It comes from accepting the present moment, and it also comes from like using your insecurities as your fuel. We could actually say that even us trying to attach meaning and purpose to life is in fact trying to look for something that doesn't exist, because all that exists is the present moment. And as soon as you think or try to attach something to the present moment, that brings you out of it. So maybe the only purpose and meaning you need is this moment right now. And the moment you try to think about purpose and meaning, you're actually coming away from the present moment. Like when you have the biggest moments of like mindfulness in your life, when you look at someone you deeply love, when you look at the sunrise or the sunset, or you see some like awe in nature, or you see something beautiful, you're not thinking, you're just there, you're in the flow state. And I think that's what maybe the meaning of life is just to be in that state of mind where you're experiencing the present moment. Number 9, what role does love play in your life? Love has a weird kind of dichotomy in my brain where like it makes me a bit sad because I don't really have as much. Like I've got the love for my family, but I don't have the love for myself that I want, and it makes me feel a bit shameful all the time, like I'm trying to pursue something to like fill in that void. And I know really the only way of like finding that love is accepting who I am, but I'm constantly pursuing more to accept and give myself love. And you can't receive love until you love yourself. And I know that sounds really hippie, and that's probably the most like new age quote I've ever said, but it's true. You need self-acceptance. You need to realize that you are enough as you are, and you're going to be okay. And you need to start loving who you are and your little character flaws and all the little like chips in your character. You need to accept all these. Love as in a date in life. I don't have any at the moment. I've not had any in a while, and that's something that has been fueled by my insecurity around women, that I've been so averted from my dating life that I've not been able to like love any women in my life other than obviously the women in my family. But I've not been able to have any romantic relationships, which is a shame because I think I would really benefit from it. But I'm in this weird dichotomy at the moment where do I go out and keep working on my goals, or do I turn my focus onto my dating life and try and find a woman that enhances my life? Because I know they're out there and I could find one, because I believe I've got the character and the vulnerability to now actually develop a good relationship with a woman, whereas I never had that before. But I think for me, like, love comes from this. Love is something that's actually working negatively for me at the moment, which is something I need to work upon. Number 10 is, do you believe in fate, or do you think you create your own destiny? Ooh. This comes back to the free will versus determinism conversation. So for those that don't know, free will is the idea that we control our destiny, or determinism is that it's already created for us and everything has been planned out and we're just kind of living that. Every thought you have, every action you do has been pre-planned and it's all determined. And this cannot be solved, and this is something that people should not maybe look into straight away, because if you start looking into determinism, you can start feeling very nihilistic and thinking, oh well, everything's just going to happen, so what's the point in living because I have no control. I think the idea of having free will is really important, because you need to know that you've got control over your life, regardless if we do. Like, life might just be set out for us and things just happen, but regardless if we have control or not, I think it's important to think you do. But on the other end of that, there's an idea called the surrender experiment that was by a guy called Michael Swinger. It's a book, it's really interesting, where he's saying like life has created everything around us, and look how crazy and complex and beautiful life is. To think that we have to control life is a bit of a illusion, because life's just going to manifest itself into us and it's going to create its own path for what we are. So maybe we're just beings on a journey that need to experience life. And what he's saying in the surrender experiment is you should step out the way and just let life live you. Get out your own way. And I experienced this coming out of the meditation retreat. I've always been a very analytical and intellectual thinker, and I overthink things so much. And one thing I found was, after I came out of the meditation retreat and the analytical mind shut off for a while, I was kind of just letting life live me, and I was kind of flowing with the present moment. And it's weird how like life felt a lot more like spontaneous and fun, and everything seemed to work its way out. Everything me and my friend Ross were doing was just manifesting in front of us. It was just playing out. Everything was just happening, and that's because we stepped out of our own way and we just did whatever life showed us. So maybe in our scenario, in our like environment, we've always got cues from life that are saying this is going to happen, just step out of the way. And maybe we have the free will, but it's all determined, and maybe our free will actually gets in the way of what life has planned for us. But in reality, I think we have control over our destiny. I think we have control over the choices we make. It's tough as well, because like genetics and your evolutionary psychology have such a big impact over the choices you make. So we could actually say that we are just like computer machines that are being computed to do these things, and we don't actually have any choices or decisions to make. We're just kind of at the whim to whatever happens. This is another interesting conversation. I don't know, but I think really there is this like point of awareness where we can look and we can make choices and we can choose where we want to go. So that's my my opinion on that. Number 11, how do you handle conflicts and disagreements with others? Not very well, and this is something I want to improve. I think because I've been so socially anxious, I tend to like avert away from confrontation. And the older I'm getting, the better I'm getting at this. And through working a team leader job at Morrison's, I had to deal with confrontation more frequently. So I managed to get a bit better at this. But yeah, my anxiety makes me avert from this because I find it scary. So what I do now is when a conversation needs to be had, or when like something needs to be done, I just tackle it head on now. I just go in there and I get the anxiety, I get the heart rate increase, but I'm like, this is a conversation that needs to be had. And like a good example I have of this was one of my managers at Morrison's wasn't treating me very well, was speaking to me very rudely, and I used to accept that. And then one day I thought, right, this conversation needs to be had, and I just went up to him and said, look, I'm not happy with the way you're currently speaking to me. If you've got problems with my performance, I want you to give me like constructive criticism. And I think the more you speak to me in this manner where like you're not regarding me as a human, the more I'm just going to ignore you and the more problems there's going to be. So let's like sort this out in a productive manner and both sort this out like adults. And as soon as I said that to him, there was instant respect there. So to build respect, you need to deal with confrontation. It's something that's extremely important. So yeah, I would definitely work on that. And it's something I want to keep improving on as I get through my like self-improvement and journey. And I think the more testosterone you have, and also if you have an ability to defend yourself, as in like you've learnt martial arts, you're going to have a more like calm nature as you go into confrontation, because in the back of your mind in any confrontation is our evolutionary psychology kicking in again, going, oh, this is going to result in confrontation in a fight. And if you know how to defend yourself, that mind's going to be less alerted because you've got the calmness and the serenity that you can defend yourself if needs be. So yeah, maybe tackle it head on, but that's how I'm dealing with it at the moment. Number 12, what do you think is a key to maintaining healthy relationships? Telling the truth. This is the most important thing that you can do with any relationships. Lies, all they do is break the foundation of what the core of our reality is, and all we have is our truth. You need to tell people exactly what it is, because the moment you try to manipulate others, you're breaking the bond of what is both of everyone's reality. And then we're starting to manipulate and warp what's going on, and we're leaving each other in a massive disconnect between what's actually happening. So all you have is your truth, your own word, and you need to share this. Whether that's like vulnerabilities, that you're anxious, you're afraid, whether that's you're not happy with your current relationship, your sex life, you're a bit concerned about how close your girlfriend or your partner is with another boy, you need to say that. You need to say it in a manner that is like true, because that's all we have. We only have our word. So yeah, like truth, and also like act out as you want to be treated. Like if you want to be loved, you need to act out with love. Lead with love first. Lead with love in actions. Lead with actions that are given, and then they will return to back to you. But you can't just expect things. So stop. Also, another thing with relationships is stop expecting and just like give and give. And have the idea that like people are starting to take the mick a little bit. Know if people are taking advantage of you, and stay analytical and logical, but just give and be at service to people, because then you're going to get the best of people in return. You can't just expect other people to give you everything you want. Number 13, what is your philosophy on work-life balance? I think if you enjoy your work and your work is something that like really gives you purpose, I don't think you necessarily need a work-life balance, because I think you can integrate work into your life and everything can be at service to others. I think it's about finding that work that is really meaningful to you and gives you the reason to get out of bed. And if you can do something that you're really passionate about, your whole life can actually benefit your work, and your work can benefit your whole life. I think this idea of having a separate work and life balance and having a job I hate and then having the life after that I enjoy is a complete dogmatic system that we've been indoctrinated into, because they want you to think that you need to sacrifice your whole life to make a living so you can enjoy a little bit of work. That's what the system we're brought into. It's like, go work your 9 till 5 and enjoy the weekends, even though the weekends are a social construct. So they don't want you to be happy, and they don't want you to enjoy your work, because they want you to have to sacrifice to enjoy your life. And then because you're doing that, if you're depressed and you're like not happy, you're easier to control when they can put you more into the system. So yeah, I think you need to find a way to not even think about work-life balance and actually have a way where you can integrate the both in a healthy way. And the things you do in the outside give you things to implement into your work, and the things you do in your work give you things to implement in your life. And this is why I think a personal brand's so important in the age we're in now. Like you can make a whole career out of like the things you're interested in. You can translate your life into like a work. I wouldn't even call it work. It's just expressing and sharing who you are. So that's what I would say for people who are aspiring to do things now, is like start a personal brand, talk about things you're interested in, because it's going to be amazing. It's such an amazing opportunity for you to live a life that you actually want. But if you are in working currently like I am, what is the link between what I'm doing? It is make sure you've got time to exercise, make sure you've got time to be mindful, make sure you've got time to learn and apply, and make sure you've got time for friends. Like, you need to make sure that work doesn't just consume your whole life. You need to have time to rest and recover and be quiet, because in the times of idleness, when you're not doing anything, is when creativity happens and creativity comes up. So you need to make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to breathe and let your mind process what's happening, because this is when you're going to come up with the ideas and the thoughts that are going to create a better life for yourself. 14, how do you cope with stress and maintain your mental well-being? Meditation and exercise. Meditation is literally just the art of not associating with your thoughts and feelings, and the external stimuli that comes in and gets interpreted through your brain is going to evoke certain stress responses. And the more you can increase the gap between stimulus and response, the better you're going to be at choosing a response that isn't stressful. So the more that gets filtered through your mind and the more you can observe it, the more you can let it all go, the happier you're going to be and the less stress you're going to be. Also with working out, it's very similar, how you're pushing yourself to past your perceived limits, and you're like working through your demons. All this built up stress and energy that you've got in your body that you require from every day is going to be alleviated from just like working out hard and pushing yourself past your limits. So yeah, how I maintain my mental well-being and stress is by working out and meditating. Also stuff like learning about the mind and the mechanics of like how it works, and reading about philosophy, because this thing really develops an understanding of you are not important and you are just this little microorganism that's on this spinning rock that is a microorganism on this big vast of galaxy, which is a microorganism on this big vastness of the universe, which who knows what's bigger than the universe? We don't know. So yeah, you realize that you're very not important, and that also alleviates a lot of your symptoms of stress as well, because you're important. Your problems don't matter as much. 15, what do you think happens after we die? Oh, interesting conversation. This is a good question, mate. These questions from ChatGPT have been really good. I might start doing this more often. I like the quick fire nature of it. I think it keeps your brain, like, it's kind of like a little brain training thing. What do you think happens after we die? I think we are connected to a different reality. We are God. So I see spirituality as like everything is God. Like God is this quantum like field of energy that where everything is connected, right? And we have access to God, not me more than anyone, but everyone is God. We all have access to the oneness that is God. So what I think happens after this like physical body dies is our ego shuts off, this sense of self shuts off, and we embody the oneness of reality, and we go back into the fuel, the energy that is the oneness of reality. I think when you like do things like dimethyltryptamine, like DMT or any sort of psychedelics, this really shows you that there's more than what we think is our box of sense of self. There's something bigger and greater, and we're part of that. And I think we all maybe have like a soul, maybe this individualized part, but this part is a subcomponent of the bigger thing. And I think the way the Hindus look at this, I really love it. It's in the Bhagavad Gita explains that there's a Brahman and Atman, and Brahman is the underlying Godhead, which is what I was talking about, like quantum field of like energy and oneness. And then the Atman is the sense of self that's on top of that, the Alex Rogers, the soul. But it's all one in each other. It's all the same thing. So I think once we die, this sense of self, this Atman, maybe just dissolves into the Brahman, and then you are just like one. And you understand the oneness, you understand God. That's how I'd like to describe it anyway. Number 16, how do you define true friendship? I define true friendship as someone who wants you to win and tells you things regardless of if it is hurtful or not. Someone who doesn't go behind your back and talk about you and is like true to what you are doing and supports you and doesn't doesn't want to see you not succeed. I think when someone like inhibits your growth by like little comments and like little actions that stop you from growing, that is someone who's like jealous of you and doesn't want to see you win and is not a true friend. So someone who really wants to see you win and can listen to you without judgment but tell you the facts, like, dude, you're doing this wrong, I've seen you doing this, you need to stop. And I found a really good like true friend in my mate Ross, where like I've got someone now who I can really speak to and just go, look, I've got this problem, and he will tell me regardless if I'm doing wrong, and I'll tell him the same. And like anytime he puts out things, I'll share it straight away to everyone, and he will do the same with me. And that is someone who wants to see me win, and I want to see him win. So there's a true friend, and that's what I would define true friendship as. Are you more focused on the present moment or the future? I would be lying if I said the present moment, because I'm so focused on the future right now. But I know this is an unrealistic expectation that is never going to give me fulfillment. And the only reason I'm anticipating the future is to feel okay in that present moment. So it's kind of like this cycle I'm on, this hedonic treadmill that I could literally just step off right now. But it's hard. I've trained the habit of my brain to attach to the present moment so much that attached to the future, so much that it's very hard to anchor myself back in the present moment. And the brain operates in a way where it's always anticipating the future. It's prediction machines because it's always trying to help us survive. So your mind, the tendency of your mind is to attach to the future, to try and anticipate your scenario, your situation, to how to survive. So I definitely focus on the future well too much. I think it's important to focus on the future, but all that exists is this present moment. Like that's just a fabrication in my own mind is the future, and so is the past. So it would be more beneficial for me to focus on the present. And there's also another thing called the backwards law by Alan Watts, whereas if you focus on the future, the positive, idealistic version of yourself, all it's going to do is reinforce where you are not. It's going to reinforce who you are not, and it's going to ruin your self-esteem. But if you was to focus on the present moment and focus on the negatives of now, that will turn into a positive. So focusing on the positive, the future, is actually a negative, and focusing on a negative, the right now, is actually a positive, because focusing on the future, the present moment right now, is going to allow you to improve what's actually happening right now, instead of comparing yourself to this idealistic version of yourself. So use the backwards law. So I should be focusing on the present moment. Alex, who's watching this and editing it, focus on the present moment, dude. Stop looking at the future. Number 18. What is the biggest lesson you have learned in life so far? That I'm an absolute mess and it's fine. That my life, my brain are all so complicated and so insecure and so anxious, but it is absolutely perfect. I'm going to be okay. That is the biggest lesson I've learned, regardless of what my current state of mind is, what my anticipations about the future are, what my anxieties are. Everything's going to work itself out. Everything's going to be okay. And it's one thing I could really say to my younger self is, you are okay, mate. You're okay as you are. You're doing fine. You're doing the best you've got with the current tools that you have. And you're going to work through them. You're going to improve and progress, and you're going to gain more wisdom. So the biggest lesson I've learned in my life so far is everything's okay. Everything's going to be okay. Number 19. How do you deal with uncertainty and embrace change? You just dive into it and realize that the idea of having control is an illusion in itself, because you cannot control your external environment. And as things are changing, if you try to attach to a certain emotion, a way of feeling, or if you're trying to attach to a certain environmental factor, then you're just going to cause yourself unnecessary suffering. So you need to lean into the change. The more change you have, the more you grow. So just flow with the change. As all the change happens in your life, as you gain more confidence, you get a new job, you move places, this happens, you get a new friendship group. Don't look and attach to a past version of you or this idealistic version of yourself. Just flow with the change. Whatever happens, happens, and be there and be present. And change is good, man. Change gets you out your box of reference. When you're living the same life, living in a habitual way, you're constantly stuck in habit. You're having the same thoughts, the same insecurities, the same wishes, the same aspirations, and you're living in a habit. You're just on airplane mode. But when change happens, it flicks your brain upside down. It's like you need to actually use your cognitive bandwidth now to react in a different way. And this is going to change you and challenge you as a person. You're going to grow from that. So embrace change and don't fight against it. Just flow with whatever happens. That's my advice for how to embrace change. Number 20, what role does spirituality or religion play in your life? So a couple of years ago, I would have completely just ignored this notion. I would have been like, what's spirituality? What's religion? I don't want to hear about it. But now I'm so very open to the idea of a God and religion, and I can see the values of the value structure of what the core beliefs of religion give you, and how they give you a set of morals and values to live by, and how spirituality does the same. It connects you to this moral way of living. So spirituality and religion for me gives me this sense of that there's something bigger than me and I'm not as important and I'm here to serve others, and it stops me from finding meaning in the material. So like if you don't have a connection to divine, if you don't have a connection to God or some sort of spiritual practice, you will find your God in something destructive. We are beings of worship. So whatever we define as our God, we worship that. And if you don't have a connection to the divine, the spiritual, the something bigger than you, you will put that importance on God in something material, like the bigger car, having a better job, earning more money. And this is a never-ending pursuit of more, because you're always going to feel lack, because that's what society wants you to feel. Society, and the way our culture is propagated at the moment, is to make you feel lack, is to make you feel like you constantly need more. And if you're putting your God, if you're putting your value structure on material things and the importance of social status, then you're going to be constantly pursuing more, because there's always going to be people better than you. There's always going to be people achieving more than you. And it's going to be this hedonic treadmill of always achieving more. But if you put your value, and if you define your God as something divine, as something bigger, maybe call it love, or maybe call it the connection of oneness between us all, then you're going to be willing to serve others, and you're going to show more compassion, vulnerability, and you're going to realize that you're here for another reason that's bigger than material. So that's what role spirituality and religion plays for me. Number 21 is, do you think money can buy happiness? Absolutely not. I think money can buy you freedom, which actually entails a certain amount of happiness, but I don't think money can inherently buy happiness. Maybe it can actually, because happiness, as I said before, is a fleeting emotion. And you can go and have a chocolate cake and be happy for a minute. You can go and drive a Ferrari and be happy for the time you're driving a Ferrari. So money can actually buy happiness. It can't buy fulfillment. It can't buy a serenity and a calm state of mind. So money can buy happiness for sure. It can buy you freedom, but it can't buy you purpose. Number 22 is, what is your biggest regret and what did you learn from it? Not going traveling sooner, and dropping out of university, I'm going to say. So I dropped out of university when I was 19 because I was like so enrolled in like drugs and partying, and I was so like clinically depressed that I wanted to kill myself. And I dropped out of university on the whim because I came back for Christmas and I made a promise to myself that I wasn't going to go out and party. And the day all my friends came back, I started doing a load of drugs again. And instead of sticking it out and seeing if I could just put myself in different friendship groups, or maybe if I could go to the gym and be consistent, I just gave up straight away. And I think in that environment, there was a lot of opportunity to be around people that were very like-minded. So I think I gave up very easy on university, and I think it would have been really good for my growth to be in that scenario, to not give in to the drinking, to the drugs, and to go out and actually be productive as an entrepreneur, which I was around entrepreneurs all the time in my business degree I was doing. So yeah, that's probably one of my biggest regrets. But I don't regret anything because that's the reason why I'm now. So regret is just a state of mind that you don't want to listen to. Number 23 is, how do you stay true to yourself in a world that constantly tries to change you? Who is yourself? Like, who are you? I think this idea of a concrete you is just a pure illusion in itself. And you have this idea of how Alex Rogers acts or how you act, and then you try to act in a manner with that. But that in itself is just not accepting what's happening in the present moment. So I think to a certain extent, you're constantly going to be changing. Everything in reality is flux. Even all the particles, the atoms, they're all changing. So are you. So the fact that you try to be you is being something that doesn't exist. But I'm going to like answer that question in a normal manner and not in kind of like such a spiritual or metaphysical way. But that is my original answer to that question is don't try to be you. Just be whatever happens, be your truth, whatever feels right then. Don't try to act up in a certain regard that is this version of you that you've like set out, because it's only going to cause suffering when you don't feel aligned with that person, this idea of you that you've got. Other than that, how do you stay true to yourself in a world that constantly tries to change you? Is know your values, know what to. Tough question. Know your values and know what feels morally right to you and what feels truthful in the moment. That moment of, morally, if you listen to your intuition, what is right and what is wrong. So follow that. Follow your intuition and don't listen to what other people are doing, because we live in an age of social media where we're seeing the constant highlights of others and we're constantly seeing what we should be and what we are not. And don't listen to them, because you don't know their people's state of mind. You don't know what everyone else is feeling or thinking. You just see their outward perception. So just keep doing what you're doing, man. You're fine as you are, whoever's listening to this, and stay true to your word by being truthful. Never lie. There we are. That's the one thing I would say. As I said before, never lie. 24 is, what legacy do you hope to leave behind? This is a conversation that I had with someone from reading The Denial of Death by Ernest Becker, which is the only reason we try to leave a legacy behind is because we have this innate fear of death, and we need to create something to feel like we're immortal, because we can't comprehend the idea that we're going to die. But so this is coming from my fear of death right now, is what I'm trying to say. The legacy I want to leave behind is I want to make an impact on the world in a manner that I want to make people realize that it's okay to be you. And that sounds so wishy-washy again, but it is, dude, you're fine as you are. If you're a girl watching this, you are absolutely fine. You can work on yourself, you can be proactive, but you don't need to be anyone else. And I just want people to realize that vulnerability and sharing who you are is the best way forward. And I want to do that through being vulnerable myself. The legacy I want to leave behind is I want to be an inspiration, showing that you don't have to live up to societal norms. You don't have to give into your insecurities, your anxieties. And I want to be the direction that I want to be the compass that people can use to unlock their inner potential. That's my legacy. And number 25, what advice would you give to your younger self? I made an Instagram story about this before. It is to stop worrying so much. Dude, like, you're going to be fine. Things are going to work themselves out. Regardless of what happens, you will be there. You'll be fine. You'll have a positive state of mind. So chill out, take it easy, and you're going to be fine. You're okay as you are. You don't need to be anyone else. Practical tips I give to myself is get into the gym straight away. Get into the gym and start meditating. Eat healthy. Look after your body and your mind and body will look after you. So that's it, people. That was 25 questions by ChatGPT. I hope you all enjoyed. I've really enjoyed that. That was mega interesting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for a Q&A from people. I don't know if I'll get enough questions, but yeah, I think that'll be interesting to do so. Thank you very much for listening, people, and I'll see you all in the next episode.